This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace.
Last year, I went through many different life changes. I needed to take a pause and examine how I was feeling in the inside to better show up for the ones who need me to be my best version of myself.
When you're navigating life's changes, Talkspace can help. Talkspace is the #1 rated online therapy, bringing you professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatry providers that you can access anytime, anywhere.
Living a busy life, navigating a long-distance relationship, becoming a first-step father, Talkspace made all of those journeys possible. I could speak with my therapist in the office. I could speak with my therapist in the comfort of my home. I was never alone.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance, no problem. Now get $80 off your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
This podcast is supported by The RealReal. Meet Christine. She loves shopping. And this is the sound of fashion overload. Too many fabulous things, not enough space. So Christine started selling with The RealReal.
I've always loved collecting designer pieces. Gucci bags, Prada heels. But my style keeps evolving. Selling with The RealReal? Game changer. I earn more, and they do everything.
Seriously, just drop off your items or schedule a pickup. We handle the photos, descriptions, pricing, even shipping. You just sit back and watch your items sell fast to our 40 million members.
And I get peace of mind knowing I earn more selling with The RealReal than anywhere else.
Exactly. That's the sound of your closet working for you. The RealReal. Earn more, save time, sell fast. And right now, you can get an extra $100 to shop when you sell for the first time. Go to TheRealReal.com to get your extra $100. TheRealReal.com. That's TheRealReal.com.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. No, your eyes and ears do not deceive you. This is not Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. We are going to fill in for the guys today through next Wednesday as they are getting their usual, post-Super Bowl time off, well-deserved after what was a long football season.
Yep, so we're here until next Wednesday. Looking forward to an extra hour to spend with you. Looking forward to our guests that we'll have today and throughout the rest of the week. And a lot to get to, despite the fact that we have the All-Star break coming up here in the National Basketball Association. Olympics are going on. College basketball, of course, hot and heavy, so plenty to discuss over the next week with you guys.
And still a pretty loaded card in the NBA today that, of course, we will get into. Plenty
really
of PGA action as well. You mentioned the guests. Mike Palm still in his usual spot here a little bit later on, beginning at 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. We'll also have Jim Root covering some college hoops with us of Three-Man Weave and BasketUnderReview.com. Dive into a handful of really interesting games in college basketball today. And actually, let's start in some college hoops here because it has been upset city the last couple days. And last night, it continued once again. Purdue beats number 7 Nebraska. And it looked like Purdue was going to win the blowout, by the way, but we can react more to that game in a moment. TCU cashes as a 3-1 moneyline dog, upsetting number 5 ranked Iowa State. Wisconsin upsets number 8 ranked Illinois. And Miami, although it's not an upset, they closed a 1.5-point favorite. But considering North Carolina moved up in the AP polls to number 11, they get dogged as well.
Yeah, Miami, the classic letdown spot for North Carolina. We talked about this yesterday on our usual show, which was Money Moves with Wes Reynolds, where you beat Duke, you have to go, and then you take on a Miami team who has some good signs and good qualities about the way that its team is built. And sure enough, you get caught slipping. These are college kids. These road spots are a little bit more tricky when you go out there as opposed to professionals who are kind of used to the rigmarole of going out, getting on planes, doing all of that. The intensity of the crowd as well kind of gets to you too. So classic letdown. Market was all over it too. You mentioned the flip. When we were talking about it, it was North Carolina as a 1.5-point favorite. Flips over to Miami. Market gets it right. Situational bettors rejoice as the Hurricanes get it done. And you mentioned Iowa State. An abysmal shooting performance yesterday from Iowa State. 5 of 28. 3 from beyond the arc. They were awful. An offensive rating of 80.5. in that game, according to Ken Palm. That's not good. If you're wondering at home, you want at least I shouldn't say at least. You want over 1 at the very least, and that was an abysmal performance. You can kind of maybe chalk it up to, hey, look, this is going to happen. Offense is hard, and when you go on the road, it'll maybe spring up on you where you're going to have an inefficient performance, but TCU gets it done with their own poor offensive performance despite that. Less than a point per possession for both teams in this game.
Yes, 62-55 the final there. You see plus 270 on your graphic, as high as 3-1 out there in the market. And then I want to go to this Purdue-Nebraska game because that was kind of the marquee game of the day where you have two top 15 teams going head-to-head. It looked like Purdue was going to just blow them out here. They were up 21 with 13:45 left in the game, still up 12 with about 2:40 to go. Nebraska forces this thing to overtime. Purdue ends up holding on, but that was just a ridiculous back and forth game late.
It was, and I think big picture for Purdue, you were thinking for a while, like, okay, if they're going to blow this here, you're talking about you lose those 3 straight games, then you get back on track against Maryland and Oregon. Not really great shakes there. Those are 2 teams that are ranked 102nd and longer in KenPom rankings. So if you blow this and all of a sudden you've lost 4 out of the last 6, all against top 40 KenPom teams, you got some real questions as to what's the legitimacy of this Purdue team as we get closer to the NCAA tournament. But they hold on a little bit. Nebraska, on the other hand, they're now stuck, held in the short end of the stick. They've lost 3 out of 4 games. And you have to question, I think, with Nebraska, who got off to such a good start, and so much of it, Stormy, was their first shot offense and how great they were, if there is a little bit of an expiration date here against some of these big boys. Because their last 3 losses, of course, top 10 programs in Michigan, Illinois, and then Purdue.
Also, not an upset, but just happy for BYU to finally stop the bleeding after losing 4 straight and 5 of the last 6. It wasn't pretty, but they get the win and cover at Baylor last night, so there's that. Also, we mentioned we're going to get into some Olympic talk a little bit later and throughout the course of the next week. We do have the start of the men's Olympic hockey today. Team USA will be on deck tomorrow, but one game in action right now, actually, Italy and Sweden. Italy, a 40-1 money line dog in this game. They scored first today. Right, so you're thinking, oh my gosh, could we actually have an interesting game here? The answer appears to be no. So we're in the first intermission right now, about to start the second period as we get this underway. It's a 2-1 game right now, but look on your screen, JVT. Look at the shots that we have. Sweden out shooting Italy 27-3 in the first period. It is ridiculous.
Sweden's out shooting them?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I'm going to have to...
They're laying, I think...
I'm looking at
spread of 4.5. They're laying
4.5.
4.5 on the live puck line. They laid 5.5 at open.
Yeah.
So it's actually a discount now.
Minus 4.5, minus 150. I'll pass. All right. I was going to try to jump in on something. It's almost like you can see what's going on, and they're setting the numbers accordingly here. I mean, this is the whole point. I mean, we talked about it all the time. We say it lovingly, but hockey is a stupid sport. You can sit there and dominate shot share the way that Sweden is right now, but barely be getting by because of the variance of what hockey is at this point. So I would expect that this would tell us that they're going to pull away here and be able to cover this number.
I would think so.
But minus 4.5, minus 150,
I
that's
think
a hefty price.
This could potentially... I'll be interested to see what they do in the first 10 minutes here, Sweden. That is, the majority of this game has been played in Italy's end. I want to... Did they just score? Yep, so there's another one.
Okay, there you go.
3-1 now.
So. All right, so it's finally...
Should
have laid it.
They were driving offense like crazy. Oh, sorry. No, that was Italy.
You're killing me here.
Sorry, I was watching out the side of my eye.
I
oh my
expect
gosh.
you to know these things.
That's a huge deal.
Yeah, okay, here, let's go. I'm going back in then. All right, let's go.
You're taking? Are you taking the?
We're going with the.
What do you call that in a big spread like that? Yeah. Taking the pucks.
You're the one that mocked me a couple of weeks ago because I called them 1-score games and not 1-goal games. As is pointed out by our producer in our ear, by the way, do I want the more efficient team in Italy?
Oh yes,
who's
2
doing
goals
much,
on 4 shots.
Who's doing
Look
much more with their shots on goal than than their opponent today. That's actually, you got to think about that too. That is relatively poor goaltending here that Italy is facing. To get 2 shots, or should we to get 2 goals on less than 10 shots is ridiculous.
Speaking of poor goaltending, the first game of the day, Finland and Slovakia. I told you I liked the Finns. And for Group B, not a great start. They lose 4-1. UC Saros was brutal. But speaking of like the crazy shot share numbers, Finland outshot Slovakia like 18-5 in the first period. They end up losing that thing 4-1. 39-25 shot differential in general. But the Slovakia goalie just wasn't letting anything through.
Man, this is still getting. I mean, you talk about the difference between these 2 teams from a power rating standpoint. 2-2 here, and I get we know what's going on. We're talking 4.5 still the spread, plus 125, though, if you want to lay it with Sweden. And if you look at the 3-way regular time, Sweden minus 10,000, Tie is 15-1, and then Italy is 50-1.
But I told you earlier before we opened the show, like sometimes in group play, weird stuff does happen.
Sure.
You don't expect a 40-1 shot money line to end up coming through a winning game, but it's tie game right now, early in the second period. We'll see how this plays out. But weird things, weird upsets do happen. I think even earlier this morning, though, with Slovakia getting the win as a plus 320 dog against Finland is an example of that. That's one of the reasons why I like Czechia tomorrow against Canada, which I talked about that yesterday on Money Moves, but we can discuss that further a little bit later on today. I know Mike Palm will want to get into some hockey as well, but even though the NFL season is officially in the rearview mirror, we still have news coming into the National Football League. And yesterday, right here in Vegas, the Raiders made it officially official, introducing Clint Kubiak as their new head coach. He had this to say on the podium about the new digs.
You know, guys, I got all these notes prepared, and I've never been really good at that. The main thing is this is no ordinary job. You know, this is the silver and black. This is the Raiders. This is a historic franchise. So, you know, when the opportunity came up to stay in Seattle and continue there, or to have a chance to come here and compete with this organization, it was a no-brainer. You know, I grew up obviously watching a lot of Broncos football. All right, we're going against the Raiders twice a year, and the grit of this franchise sticks out. You know, when you hear the autumn wind as a Raider, you know, I can hear that in my mind growing up, you know, watching NFL films and seeing these guys next to me play, you know, seeing Howie Long and Jim Plunkett. You know, it's pretty powerful to be sitting up here with you guys. And I just want you to know that, you know, those values that you guys played with, that's what we're going to play with.
You obviously have covered this team very closely over the years, and it has been, I feel like, rough coaching hire after rough coaching hire in terms of the culture set. What do you think about Clint Kubiak initially, and what you think he might be able to do for this group?
I mean, my favorite phrase that I've heard when it comes to coaching, and I can't remember who initially said this, but it's one of the best ones. I think it's a good hire. I have no idea how it'll work out. You know, it's just, you have no idea what this does in terms of how he runs a front or how he runs a locker room, how they respond to him, how he delivers criticism. I think it's actually important. We're going to play it right now about how he was learning under Mike Macdonald and the way that worked. And sometimes when you try to criticize people, because it's a good thing to be able to take criticism and to be able to deliver it in a proper way. But if you don't do it the right way, then all of a sudden everything kind of falls apart and you're just not a good manager of people. So we'll see how it works out. But I do think, I've said 1,000 times and I'll say one more time, the Raiders are showing signs of being a progressive football club right now. And I think that's a very good sign for the future of the franchise. They did say that they wanted Max Crosby back, but I think you say all the right things at the initial press conference. We'll see if he actually ends up there. But they're making the right choices, and the first of which was playing for the first overall pick. The second now is getting the younger, forward-thinking offensive mind to lead your team. Yeah,
Kubiak had a cup of coffee with him, he said, with Max Crosby already in the building. He said he's the first guy in the building today. Love to see it.
Cup of coffee. That's important. Yeah.
Well, I asked the question. I put that in the rundown. Like, are we sure Max Crosby is? I mean, all of the reports have said it, but you see ownership, you see Kubiak, like bringing the mention. Are you just trying to say the right things?
I mean, yes, you're trying to say the right things. And let us be completely clear here. The report last week while I was in San Francisco, in which Jay Glazer on his own, we'll put in quotes, said that Max Crosby was done with the team. He got that from one person and one person only. So let's not act like this is something where Jay Glazer decided to go run amok in San Francisco and make some stuff up for no reason whatsoever. I don't think Max Crosby wants to be there, and I would say that it's a small favorite that he is not a Raider next year still.
Meanwhile, they are a long shot in the division in the AFC West next year, 25-1. I think second or third longest long shot that there is in the league.
I mean, you could see kind of the outline, I think. As somebody who is pessimistic when it comes to the Raiders quite a bit, you invest in free agency in the offensive line to get some proven talent. You go and you steal Rashid Shaheed in free agency. All of a sudden, or maybe another piece that's out there, all of a sudden you're kind of looking at a team that offensively, Stormy, if Fernando Mendoza can thrive in this offensive system, can be, I think, a somewhat formidable team on a week-to-week basis and steal a few wins.
Yeah, Fernando Mendoza, by the way, minus 8,000 to be the number one overall pick in the upcoming April draft. You mentioned Mike Macdonald, the Seahawks having some fun at their Super Bowl parade today. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But to the NBA, we go next. A loaded card today in the penultimate day before the All-Star break.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools, but what they don't want you to know is you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. With VSiN Pro, you get access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace.
Last year, I went through many different life changes. I needed to take a pause and examine how I was feeling in the inside to better show up for the ones who need me to be my best version of myself.
When you're navigating life's changes, Talkspace can help. Talkspace is the #1 rated online therapy, bringing you professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatry providers that you can access anytime, anywhere.
Living a busy life, navigating a long-distance relationship, becoming a first-step father, Talkspace made all of those journeys possible. I could speak with my therapist in the office. I could speak with my therapist in the comfort of my home. I was never alone.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance, no problem. Now get $80 off your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
This podcast is supported by The RealReal. Meet Christine. She loves shopping. And this is the sound of fashion overload. Too many fabulous things, not enough space. So Christine started selling with The RealReal.
I've always loved collecting designer pieces. Gucci bags, Prada heels. But my style keeps evolving. Selling with The RealReal? Game changer. I earn more, and they do everything.
Seriously, just drop off your items or schedule a pickup. We handle the photos, descriptions, pricing, even shipping. You just sit back and watch your items sell fast to our 40 million members.
And I get peace of mind knowing I earn more selling with The RealReal than anywhere else.
Exactly. That's the sound of your closet working for you. The RealReal. Earn more, save time, sell fast. And right now, you can get an extra $100 to shop when you sell for the first time. Go to TheRealReal.com to get your extra $100. TheRealReal.com. That's TheRealReal.com.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
No Mitch, no Paul, JVT, Stormy Buonantony with you until next Wednesday. But a reminder for all of you can get ready to win a larger-than-life World Soccer Championship experience only at Circa Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. One lucky winner scores a 2-night stay at Circa, a VIP cabana for the games at Stadium Swim with $500 in credit, plus $250 in food and beverage. Arrive in style with a limo transportation and celebrate with cocktails at Legacy Club. Enter now and kick off the World Soccer Championship at Circa Resort and Casino. For giveaway details, go to circalasvegas.com. That is circalasvegas.com. Some would say the head honcho, the big cheese, Mike Palm is here in studio with us. How are you, sir?
Hello, John. Hello, Stormy. How are you?
Doing well. I was going to say for details, ask this guy.
I'm a better host.
It nearly makes me vomit that you have to say World Soccer Championship instead of World Cup. I mean, I guess people have gotten used to saying...
Is that like a branding thing?
Big Game Bash. You can't use Super Bowl. It's a trademark term. World Soccer Championship. Come on, it's World Cup.
Yes.
It's World Cup.
See, well, that's great that we have you on so you can give the caveat. You can say that afterwards. Are you really excited for that, though? That's going to be an awesome week.
The World Cup? Yeah. Well, it's nice that the games will be on during normal living hours here in North America, and you don't have games at 1 and 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. And we hope it drives a lot of summer visitation here. Obviously, Stadium Swim will be a great place to watch as well as in the book.
You've been burning the candle at both ends. You sound a little sick. You feeling okay?
Very ill. No, my children, they've rotated illness.
Oh,
my stepdaughter was sick last, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Then my son was sick Monday, Tuesday when he just got done with his antibiotics. He was diagnosed with the flu. Ugh. The little girl had to be sick on her birthday Monday. She turned 4, but the fever started on Sunday. She's just getting out of it, and now it's my turn. So,
exactly what it is every single time. It's a mystery illness all the way around. The disgusting part about daycare is the cacophony of phlegmy coughs that you hear in that petri dish that is a daycare center. Absolutely tremendous.
We have real quickly 2 minutes to go here. Sweden scored again, so it's 5-2.
So
now the sweat is on.
-4.
Yeah, we were watching this in right before at the start of the third period. It was -3.5, -195. And so we were just tracking it out of curiosity because we were kind of doing the math. If you pull the goalie early, that seems like a really big number. They've been out shooting them like crazy, and then sure enough, here they are.
I don't know how much you've been paying attention to this game, if at all, but Italy's starting goalie was freaking nails and then got hurt when it went on stretching out for a Pedersen goal. So he got pulled, and now the backup's in, and all the goals have been scored.
Well, they put 60 shots on net, too.
It's crazy. No. I know. That's what I'm saying. But their starter has just been ridiculous all day. That said, I was telling everybody on Money Moves yesterday when I approached you in the parking garage about Team USA women's hockey yesterday, and I said that I bet them in regulation and laid the puck line. You said she laid 2.5, and it was perfect.
I've been saying this for 2 months, Stormy, that this team towers above Canada. And AJ Malesko made the comment when they scored the 5th goal. This game will now give them confidence they can beat Canada. They've beaten them across the North America now. Every game was 6-1, 5-1. They certainly have confidence. They're just that much better than Canada, who's that much better than everybody else. Now, you could have gotten Team USA women at -120, and then even before they started last week, -135, depending on where you look. 150 was the number in the market, too. Now they're -350. Yep. Don't bet them -350. Wait till the gold medal game against Canada. They'll be 180. Right? It's nonsense. Do not bet. Just wait for the gold medal game. I would never lay 350.
Outscored them, you mentioned the North America games, outscored them 29-7 now in those 5 combined games.
Yeah, it was 24-7, and the closest game was 4-1. Yeah. So, I mean, how about Erin Frankel, the goalie she was 18-1 before they started for women's MVP in hockey.
Oh, wow.
Looking pretty good now. She's given up 1 goal so far.
Is the Canadian injury long-term? The girl that was missing yesterday?
She's day-to-day.
Okay.
And she's the captain. Well, how does this affect her wife, who's also on the team? That's an interesting dynamic in women's sports as well.
The emotional layer. You talk about that in the WNBA
it's true,
a lot.
Though.
Yeah.
It's true. They're very protective, and they have to go to the team their girlfriend's on and all that kind of stuff.
And the Italians will cover the 3.5.
Wow,
so there you
this.
go. It comes through when all is said and done. Any other Olympic? I know you guys have been booking curling here. Any other Olympic games in particular that you have either bet or just have interest in during the winter portion?
I have zero interest except for the hockey on both sides. I don't follow the curling. I used to follow the figure skating, but I mean that was when Katarina Witt. You're too young to remember Katarina Witt and Debbie Thomas and with the golden age of figures. I don't even follow that anymore. So it's just hockey for me, but I'm watching as much of it as I can. As I told you guys last week, that the Sweden women team would crush in that very weak Group B, and they did, dominating all the competition. So we'll see. They'll probably end up with the bronze medal on the women's side. But these are just some interesting.
Yeah.
Everybody makes it into the tournament on the men's side, right? Yeah. So it'll be interesting how coaches experiment with time. Maybe Cooper will start Bennington the first game just to see what he gets out of him, right?
We had this whole conversation yesterday. I'm very curious to see what he's going to do for Team Canada.
You can bet which goalie from Team Canada will have the most minutes in net during the Olympics.
That's
a market out, not in Nevada,
right? Yeah.
But that's a market out there. The bet that I would make is Kemper. You can find Kemper at 8-1, but Thompson's a slight favorite, like plus 180, and then Bennington's like plus 250. I don't think it's Bennington. I think if he plays, he'll play bad, and he's going to give him a shot. But
he's been terrible.
What's he lost? Like 9 or 10 in a row coming into the Olympics?
So why is there a thought that he would play?
Because Cooper is very loyal to Bennington as a big game goaltender, and you saw in the Four Nations he won the gold medal game for them. And what I heard is that he was promised a place on the team. He wasn't promised to play in that.
I told him a stat that I saw from The Athletic that said, based on some of the numbers this season, between Logan Thompson and Jordan Binnington, it is essentially, if you're starting Binnington, like starting a game with a full goal already having been scored against him.
It's interesting because, Logan Thompson played very well, but lately he hasn't played that well, and he had the injury, right? So I think Kemper's the most reliable.
That's an interesting play.
But I also think that we thought that America would have a big advantage in net, and Hellebuck has not had a good season. Ottinger has not had a good season, right? You could probably argue Swayman's had the best season of the three, but I think the other two, Hellebuck will be in net to begin with, and then Ottinger number 2. But I don't know that it's that big of an advantage. If Canada doesn't win, it's because the goaltending let them. I think if America doesn't win gold, it's because they didn't score enough. Remember, Billy Guerin left 4 of the 5 top-scoring American-borns are not on this roster.
So does this lead to, Stormy's mentioned this, the Czech Republic being a little plucky tomorrow, plus 380 or thereabouts?
Yeah, I'm interested to see how Dostal plays with a team that's defensive-minded. You watch these Czech, you watch the Junior Olympics and all that. The Czech program is very defensive-minded, and they've been very good in the juniors the last few times. This team will play a defensive style in front of Dostal, which the Ducks, I'm sorry, they've been very good this year, but they're not a defensive-minded team. How Dostal can do. Now, I think Sweden's better overall than the Czechs, and they have 3 good goaltenders. Sweden obviously got Markstrom behind Gus, and then you got Jesper Wallstedt as the third goalie here. I think Czech is the interesting wild card on the men's side.
Yeah, I bet them plus 2.5 tomorrow against Canada. So we'll see.
But just remember, this doesn't mean anything. It's just seeding. You get a bye.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So you can afford to spread this thing out and stay healthy.
Well, and that's why we're talking about, too, how in some of these preliminary round games, like you can get weird results, like we see Slovakia this morning against Finland. But do you like any dark horses, longer shots?
No, no, I really don't.
Okay.
But, I mean, some of these prices are outrageous, too. I mean,
Sure.
they're minus 3,200.
We were talking about the group prices yesterday for A and C were just, you can't bet it.
So in-game wise, Mike, with some of these games, when you get to the elimination stage, how early do they start pulling these guys then, knowing that there's no tomorrow for some of these? Is that something you're watching for?
Well, especially if you're down 2 goals. I think you're going to see pulls at 5 and 6 minutes, and the kind of Patrick Waugh mentality who doesn't care what the final score is. He's just going to take a shot. We've seen him pull the goalie with 11 minutes to go in the NHL.
I did want to ask you as well, coming off of the Super Bowl this past weekend, I know it was a profitable week specifically for Circa, the way things played out with Seattle, but for Nevada, with this being, the worst overall handle in a decade, that surprise you at all?
Well, I don't know. We've got a lot of promotion of prediction markets going on here, and you see these outrageous numbers that they're booking,
and you can bet anything.
I mean,
it's not betting.
There was more bet on what Bad Bunny's first song would be on Kalshi than was bet on the Super Bowl in the state of Nevada.
Yeah.
Think about that. And I one of our bigger players, I'm walking in Sunday morning, coming across the bridge, and I said to him, you've known him from the blackjack tournaments, I said to him, who do you need today? He said the first song of Big Bunny. And I thought he was joking.
Did he get
He hit
TT
it.
Me?
Yeah, and then I heard from Derek. He sent it to Derek. It's all inside info, of course. But he had made a 6-figure wager on it that he won. But obviously having inside info, so that's part of it. The matchup was not inspiring.
No.
We said the game didn't have any juice. I mean, we didn't really start getting busy here till Saturday afternoon, and it was good. I mean, Saturday through Sunday night was good. Monday was a little soft. So, but for us. Our right was down about 8% when you go across all 6 states. So, but the result, we were very lucky. We were very lucky with the position we had with the Seahawks future that we took the hedge here.
Yes.
Then somebody that wanted to bet $1 million on Seattle money line, the price was 2 cents off, and he demanded we move it back. We wouldn't. And then another big player of ours came and hedged his Seattle position, which he didn't have with us, with $1 million bet right before the game on New England money line again. So it was a miracle result for us.
Yeah, when we had Derek on, he said that, hey, we're expecting a big bet. Jeff Benson comes on, says, we didn't get it. They didn't want the price on Seattle, went elsewhere. And then ultimately getting that Patriots bet was the lifesaver. Okay, we got to step aside. Cannot wait to see what you are fired up about today. And you cannot be serious. Next.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
JVT, Stormy Buonantony with you here today on Follow the Money in place of Mitch and Paul. But just because we are filling in does not mean things change when the big guy Mike Palm is in studio. So let's get to it.
You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious.
Yeah, and with John McEnroe bringing us in, let's start in the world of tennis. Daniil Medvedev is certainly one of the more eccentric characters on the men's tour. And his performance during his first round match at Rotterdam, coming out of the Australian Open, certainly qualifies. So I went and researched some of the backstory here. He's been complaining about these head balls that the tour uses. He doesn't like them. They're called the Head Tour XT ball, and that's what the men's tour has been using. So he loses. He's playing Ugo Humbert in his first round match in Rotterdam. And he loses the first set in a tiebreaker, 7-4, and he calls a tournament official over, and he's holding the balls, and he is saying these balls are square. He's asking him, are these balls round or are they square? And the guy's answering him, they're round. He's like, they are not round. Nobody can hit these balls. I've gone back and looked at his comments. He claims that these balls are built for Alcaraz and Sinner. Only guys that crush the ball reacts to these. He says his quotes throughout the rest of the match after he talked to this guy. He said, maybe we should consider not playing with head balls. They are not round. Then he said later, during the third set, he won the second set, lost the third set, these balls are horrible. Please delete these effing balls from my effing life. And I'm shortening what he said there. And then his quote from the presser after the match. These head balls are made for people who love to please with a little saliva. I mean, this guy is a complete wackadoo. He was a world number one at one time and U.S. Open champion, Daniil Medvedev.
You cannot be serious.
Now the second one I did just for Stormy, and it's breaking news here. Solomon Tuliaupupu, you've covered him, Stormy, the linebacker from Montana. The NCAA has granted him a 9th year of eligibility.
Wow.
A 9th year of eligibility. He's got to be taking less courses than Chris did in college. I mean, this is absolutely outrageous. He started in 2018 at USC. That's where he began his career. But he had a foot injury in 18, didn't play in 19, then had a knee injury in 20, didn't play. His first year of actually on the field was his redshirt senior season at USC in 2022, where he played all 14 games. Then he was injured again in 23. Then his last year at USC, he played 7 games before an illness ended his season. Then he transferred to Montana, where he started all the games last year and has now applied for a 9th year of eligibility, which was granted. He's 26 years old and will be playing for Montana again this fall. You know, if he'd have known this, he could have become like a heart and lung transplant surgeon. If he'd have known he'd have been in school. I mean, you know you're going to be in school for 9 years. You could have done great things. NCAA!
You cannot be serious!
And then I have to have one from the Super Bowl. I have thought about this for hours. What could Mike Vrabel be thinking to try to kick the extra point down 19-0? I can't think of a mathematical solution to this. It's incredible. They hadn't even been in the red zone all day. You're down 19-0. You got a lucky 2-play drive. Who cares if you're down 13 or 12? It doesn't make any sense to me. How many chances did you think you were going to get against Seattle again? You're only going to possess the ball 2 or 3 more times. You don't want to be able to get an 8 and a 3 to tie? And nobody asks him about it. This is the thing, this press, nobody even asks him the question in the press. Why would you kick the extra point with 12 minutes to go? Down 19-6, why would you possibly kick the extra point? You know what this whole thing tells me, this whole NFL season tells me, with Seattle having been what they were and having won a world championship? If you take a coach who has no ego, who doesn't have to make his offense be all flashy, he'll keep it balanced and run the ball, with elite special teams, a very, very good defense, and a slightly above average offense, and you take the field goal every time you're in field goal range, you can go to the Super Bowl and win it pretty dominantly. Mike Vrabel!
You cannot be serious!
Well done.
The Vrabel one, we talked a lot about that on Monday because, I mean, I'm not even any good at math. And that was the first thing that I asked in the moment. Like, what are we doing? Why are you not going for 2 here? It just makes too much sense.
There were a lot of props about 2-point attempts, 2-point conversions, multiple, both teams. And so I thought, well, here's your first one.
Yep.
Obviously, he's going to go. And then he trots the kicker out. I was good on Jason Myers. He didn't win the MVP, but he had every one of his props, the alt props, the points.
Is a kicker ever going to win that?
They can't. He kicked 5 field goals in a defensive game. The lowest he ever got, I was watching those that offered the endgame MVP, the lowest he ever got was plus 450. Mm-hmm. The Walker was always minus money, even at that point.
What would the situation have to be for a kicker to be able to do it?
Well, I think you could have had the game like they had with the Patriots and the Rams, where it was 3-0 going into the fourth quarter. That's possible. Or the other one is you kick 5 field goals, but you hit 2 50-yarders and you hit one at the buzzer to win it. And nobody had a standout day. I mean, Walker had a lot of yards from scrimmage and all that, but I would give Darnold like a C+ for the game. Darnold wasn't terrific, right? I think the Seattle defense was really good, and May played like he played the other 3 playoff games.
Yeah. When you looked at this entire performance, I thought the other thing we talked about too is in the last few Super Bowls, like 3 out of the last 5, you've had a big mismatch with offensive line play versus defensive fronts that can get after it. I mean, that's where you've got to start. Mahomes got taken down twice by it. May got absolutely annihilated by it. And now you're having off-season conversations about whether or not Will Campbell is actually going to be the guy there at left.
Well, yeah, that was the whole thing, right? Yeah. I mean, the defensive line. I mean, what Tampa did with 4 down linemen that game, kind of changed everything. So It is what it was, and we got lucky, and now we move on. Let's at the Olympics. We got a really good college basketball season, I think.
Have you even betting college basketball regularly?
I have. The Big Ten is really good this year. I think it's better than it's been in many years. It's deeper than it's been in many years, and you see that. I mean, Wisconsin wins at Illinois, and Minnesota's had a few upsets, and Nebraska's raised its head up. I think there's only 4 teams that can win the national title, though, Stormy.
So that's interesting because we're going to have Jim Root on a little bit later on, and that was one of the questions I wrote down is how many teams realistically could win it all.
My number is 4.
I would have thought it would be a larger list. So who are the 4?
I'll be curious because one of these big boys is going to be left out.
I believe Arizona.
Okay.
Despite Tommy Lloyd, who... Did you watch the game Monday night, John, at the Fog?
Yeah.
I mean, at halftime, Self said in the interview, this is clearly the best team we've played all year, and we've got to figure out how to... Tommy Lloyd said, I love the atmosphere. We're just having a good time. I mean, Tommy Lloyd is so bad. They went, 6 possessions in a row without scoring. He called no set plays at all during that. Okay, so Arizona, Michigan, Houston, and I still think Florida is very live to win a national title.
So we're leaving
no
out
Duke.
No Duke or no UConn?
Duke's a 1.
Yeah.
Did you watch Duke, Carolina? They're a 1-player team.
Of course
to
they are.
me. They're a 2 1-player team. UConn, I didn't like their performance against St. John's. I have to tell you, I thought they panicked in that game in the Garden, and they just haven't been toughened up enough through the course of the Big East. It's so down. I leave UConn out too.
You think Houston could potentially a little redemption from last year?
I don't know, but when you can defend like they can
Yeah.
defend, I think you're always alive to win.
What's happened to BYU? Their defense is awful in Big 12 play.
I had such high hopes for them when they were 30-1. We were talking about hey, could this be for real? The Big 12 is eating them alive.
I think he's a very good coach at BYU, and I think they were a little above their skis. They've been playing well, but there's a conference where you get tested night in and night out. Like Iowa State just got beat the other night as a 7.5 road favorite.
Tell you what, a team I don't believe in offensively, Utah. TJ Otzelberger, that offense at times is so disjointed, and if they're not getting steals and getting out in transition, if they get forced to play a half-court game, you saw yesterday. They had an offense rating at 80 yesterday. It was awful.
Yeah.
Your Iowa Hawkeyes are tipping off soon. You don't care anymore.
They're they did. That's a great hire, and he will get them to the second weekend in his first 3 years. They haven't been to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. In other words, the Sweet 16. Since what year? What year do you think was the last time Iowa went to the Sweet 16?
2008.
It's not this century. 1999 is the last time.
Really?
Think about that.
Okay, that's
Fran played no defense.
Yeah.
We had 15 years of no defense.
Are you guys getting excited for what I know we're about a month out, but the conference tournament weekend, first round,
the best.
it's
All
going
of
to
that
be
is
wild.
the
here.
The Big 12 tournament should be crazy.
Yeah.
The SEC tournament should be crazy.
See the new court
Big Ten
that they're going to
tournament-
do
Where?
for the Big 12 tournament?
No.
It's like the glass
Like
court
the fire, like
with
they
all
have
the
the
lights.
glass, like lights and all that kind of
make
stuff.
I still miss Kemper Arena. I thought Kemper Arena was one of the great places to host a conference championship.
You think they'll come out here for conference championship week or conference tournament week? I mean,
The Big Ten?
or just all of these. Like we talked about, not many people coming out to Vegas, not spending their money.
People, if you came out here for March Madness, right, you have to do it one time the first weekend.
Yeah.
But the prices are, we charge more for these booths and all this on March Madness, the Thursday, Friday, than we do for Super Bowl.
It's
and they
the
pay
best
it every
day,
year, and they pay it.
I think the weekend after the first round is the better round to come to because you don't.
Well, you get to start a baseball in that round, Thursday, Friday,
I
too.
like it just
Baseball's
because
first
it's
opening
not
day.
as busy and you
No,
still get a
you're
ton
crazy.
of games.
Conference tournament week is the best. You have so many betting
well,
opportunities.
conference tournament
the
week, I
prices
totally
are half
agree.
of what they are, and you get teams playing for a third time. I think
Correct.
that's much better betting.
I like that. I just mean in comparison to the first round, it's like it's almost too busy for me for the first round being around all the people. I like the second.
You know what I
round.
like to do? I like to go to the D for the first 2 rounds, for the first rounds of the NCAA tournament. Thursday,
Detroit
Friday, Saturday,
Ballroom.
Sunday.
Maybe we'll get them all
I
Sean
got
to hang out
married
with
there.
us.
Mike Palm. Feel better, buddy. Appreciate
so much.
We'll be right back. Kicking off hour 3 of Follow the Money next.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace.
Last year, I went through many different life changes. I needed to take a pause and examine how I was feeling in the inside to better show up for the ones who need me to be my best version of myself.
When you're navigating life's changes, Talkspace can help. Talkspace is the #1 rated online therapy, bringing you professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatry providers that you can access anytime, anywhere.
Living a busy life, navigating a long-distance relationship, becoming a first-step father. Talkspace made all of those journeys possible. I could speak with my therapist in the office. I could speak with my therapist in the comfort of my home. I was never alone.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay, no insurance, no problem. Now get $80 off your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
We are back here on Follow the Money. Stormy Buonantony, JVT filling in for the guys live from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. College basketball has been bonkers, and now with the Super Bowl officially in the rear view, I feel like a lot of people around the country are fully diving into college basketball. I feel like you should have been doing it earlier, but we are going to help get you set up. Jim Root joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line, college basketball analyst, three-man weave, basketunderreview.com, does work as well for The Athletic. And this past week in particular, Jim, been super fun with the upsets. It started kind of with Kansas upsetting Arizona. Then yesterday we see 4 top 11 teams ultimately losing, even Illinois on its home court. Do we think that is something that's going to continue? It's been upset city lately.
Yeah, honestly, I've been a little bit surprised by it, especially last night, some of the losses that those top teams took. I was talking with a buddy of mine before last night, and the top 13 teams at KenPom had 18 losses against the rest of the country and 19 against each other. So it felt very top-heavy, where those top teams were not losing to everybody else. And then you had Wisconsin go to Illinois, like you said. Iowa State goes down at TCU. Now, Purdue and Nebraska, that was kind of an top couple of teams facing off against each other. But I had thought we'd see a lot more top-heaviness, and that was my expectation headed towards the NCAA tournament. But last night maybe gave me a hint that we could get a little bit more chaos, a little bit more excitement, with upsets down this final stretch of February and into March.
Could there be some today? We have 5 top 25 teams in action, all of them taking on an unranked opponent. Any of the 5 you think are in danger today?
Well, one I'm feeling good about is UConn. That is one I actually bet. So UConn is a road favorite at Butler. They haven't lost to Butler since they joined the Big East, and Butler's got some real point guard issues. I like Texas Tech at home. There's not any Florida took some money because Georgia's missing a key guard in Jeremiah Wilkinson. I'm not anticipating anything crazy tonight, but man, it'd be probably silly of me to just confidently say it won't happen because last night it seems like Purdue is going to run away with it. They're up 20, and suddenly that game is as wild as it gets in the final 2 minutes. You get some missed free throws, you get overtime. I can't confidently say it. I will say the SEC's got my alma mater, Mizzou, going to Texas A&M. Maybe that one gets a little interesting. It's part of a big game for Texas A&M at the top of the SEC standings. They're still hunting Florida if they can catch up to them. But tonight I'm thinking we revert to the lack of chaos, but, famous last words in this college basketball season. Well,
you mentioned UConn's a game we brought up a little bit earlier, trying to bounce back from the loss at MSG against St. John's. They've been getting bet out here a little bit. I see a 12 specifically here where we're at Circa. What would be the limit for you to still want to back UConn here?
Yeah, I think 12 is the cap. I got 11 earlier. I know there was some 11.5 in the market as well. I just like that even before that St. John's game, we finally saw the turbo version of UConn. They blew out Creighton. They blew out Xavier. Prior to that, I think they had gone 7 games without covering the spread. They'd been playing with fire in the Big East. Wasn't sure if we were going to get this A-plus version headed towards a 1-seed type UConn. But they showed that potential against some of the middle, bottom half, that mishmash of the Big East. And then off the loss, I looked back at Dan Hurley's ATS numbers off a loss, and they're not anything to stand out. I thought maybe they'd be a good angle, just kind of the type of coach that he is. But off that loss in a big environment on Friday, I've had a little bit extra time to prep here. And like I said, Butler's kind of limited. No point guards. Both Stink Robinson and Jalen Jackson are out for the year now. And the first matchup was kind of a slaughter on the boards, in the paint. UConn shot 20% better inside the arc than Butler did. I think they can do the same thing at Hinkle, and I understand why that money is taking that up. I think it's going the right direction.
All right, I'm curious. I wanted to go to a little bit further down the rotation, Kent State and Eastern Michigan, because the Golden Flashes have played well in the MAC, and it's a really interesting conference What do we take of this 10.5 right now with a total of 144.5?
Man, I've had some issues with Eastern Michigan this year. Early on, I thought they were going to be bad, and then they went zone for most of the season, and I think it helped slow some games down. They stayed close. They won at Cincinnati, which was a shocking outright win. But Kent State has been a team I've liked in the MAC. I was on them against Miami of Ohio, took a bit of a heartbreaking loss in that game as it went to overtime, and despite Kent State dominating the paint. But I think that's kind of where Kent State has stood out in this league, and I would probably back them here at home in that game because they've got two great big men, Rob Whaley, Delrico Gillespie, basically got two guys that can bully you inside the paint, get double-doubles, live on the offensive glass, and against an Eastern Michigan team that, for a zone team, they've been okay on the defensive boards, but against this kind of rebounding pressure that Kent State brings to bear inside and gets to the line quite a bit, I think they can kind of wear them down, lean on them physically, and end up covering that spread.
You mentioned that heartbreaker against Miami of Ohio. I don't know how many people would have had them as the last man standing as your final undefeated in college basketball at this point. How for real do you think that team is?
And I remain a skeptic, but I'm running out of evidence. You know, anytime somebody asks me, like, do you believe in them, I'd say I think I'd be content to play them in the NCAA tournament because they're going to slot in, something like a 12 or a 13 seed, but they're not even in the top 80 at KenPom. They did have a really good performance over the weekend at Marshall. I was impressed going on the road in that Sun Belt Challenge and just kind of taking Marshall to the woodshed. But I don't trust the defense. They don't have a lot of athletes on the court at any one time. They've got great ball movement, great shooting, so they're potent that way. And maybe if they run up some numbers from three, they can take down a bigger opponent. But because they haven't seen a true Power 5 opponent yet this year, they haven't had to face off against that athleticism, that physicality. I don't fully trust them into March, but I do love the story, and I cannot recommend enough watching them play because it's kind of artful basketball, the way they pass, share it, and the way everybody can shoot on the court.
All right, Jim, a couple of others on this card. Is there anything else a little bit further down that we should discuss with you here that you like?
Well, we went one Big East game, so I'll go to another one. Seton Hall is hosting Providence, and I went into today kind of expecting to back Providence. I almost wrote it up for a Best Bet at Action Network, but then came out that Providence's key freshman, Jameer Jones, is out. Ryan Mila, one of their playmaking sophomore wings, is questionable. I think they've got the flu, and typically illness flu is something I'm looking to fade when it's team-wide, when it's not a Darren Peterson mirage type of flu. If it's a whole team thing like Providence is dealing with, I'm kind of looking at Seton Hall there. They've been much better in the second half, the Pirates have. So perhaps somebody maybe wants to wait and see what happens there, jump in live, see if Providence does look a little flu-ridden. I don't think -5 is a bad look there. And then in the ACC, I'm taking Virginia Tech, 8.5 or 9, depending on what's out there. Clemson's in a really tough spot. They came all the way back from the West Coast where they played well in that Bay Area trip. And they've got the top of the ACC battle at Duke on deck on Saturday. Virginia Tech still in the bubble battle, like trying to get back into the NCAA tournament picture there, outside looking in right now. I think catching points there with a healthier team and a tough travel spot for Clemson. I like Virginia Tech getting the points in Littlejohn Coliseum.
Jim, with that look ahead to Duke, we had Mike Palm on the program a little bit earlier, and he said for him, he thinks there's only 4 teams truly that are real contenders to win a national championship, and he actually left Duke out of that list. How many teams do you think could win it all this year?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I think Michigan and Arizona have kind of separated themselves, just the physicality they bring to bear every single night. But I would say I'd include Duke, Houston, Illinois. UConn can get there. There's a couple of teams ranked really highly that maybe I'm not quite as sold on. I don't think Purdue's defense is good enough. I don't think Michigan State's offense is good enough. One of the wild cards that I'm having a hard time with, and maybe I'll go 2 in the Big 12, Kansas and Texas Tech, because I think both of them have the ceiling performance in them to be that good. Kansas is starting to show a little more consistency. Texas Tech's the one that they're still trying to get healthy. They're still not even in the top 20 at KenPom, so it's a tough sell. But outside of that top 2, if somebody could trip up Michigan or Arizona, I think there's real potential for a team in the top 10-ish to win the title. I don't think it's quite that limited.
All right, before we get you out of here, I have to ask a selfish question because I'm very much looking forward to this game tonight. New Mexico has lost 2 straight after looking like a dominant force in the Mountain West. And Grand Canyon, who has looked like a pretty competent team in its first season in the conference, coming off a loss to the hometown UNLV Running Rebels. What do we do with this matchup here? It's a 1-point spread. And what have you thought about both teams in conference play?
Yeah, I almost bet New Mexico last night, and I looked into it a little more. And Grand Canyon is 7-0 against the spread after a loss this year. They've been really good turning around. I kind of liked the angle New Mexico dominated the first game, ended up winning by 20. It was close for about 30 minutes before they totally pulled away. But I ended up staying away. It's a tough home court there at Grand Canyon. Like I said, they've been awesome off a loss. New Mexico's been really impressive to me, JVT. I didn't think this team would be remotely in the at-large picture, but here they are, top 50, close to the cut line. Their new coach, Eric Olin, has done a heck of a job. And if New Mexico's not careful, he may end up leapfrogging or bouncing from there for 1 year, back up all the way to a Power 5 job. I think Arizona State's probably one to keep an eye on there.
Jim, awesome insight as always. Good talking with you, buddy. Thanks for this.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Good to talk to you both.
Jim Root, everybody. Appreciate the insight. 3-Man Weave, Action Network, BasketUnderReview.com, The Athletic. You can find him a lot of places doing really, really strong work on college basketball. Everyone's a Lobo. Woof, woof, woof. We'll see what that looks like at Grand Canyon. 7 p.m. Pacific time tip-off on FS1. A late one for our East Coasters out there, a 10 p.m. tip. That said, our first PGA signature event of the season coming up from Pebble Beach tomorrow. We're going to break down a little bit of the field and more when we return here on Follow the Money.